Hi guys, today you join us down at Lister's in Coventry where we're seeing our good friends, and they've kindly allowed us to take a look at a T6 Ocean, and we're going to compare that to our T6.1 Ocean. So what we're going to do today is have a look at this beautiful T6 here. If you can see, two-tone. We've named it Peggy, hopefully for a relatively obvious reason here. And what we're going to do is take a look front to back. So we're going to compare the kind of driving cab area between the two vehicles, moving back in towards the sort of living area and the kitchen and the cupboards, then over to the boot, what happens there, the difference between the two, and obviously the all-important sleeping up top.
So if you're interested in the difference between a T6 and a T6.1, hopefully this should give you the insight. Right, so I've got the job of explaining the T6 to you, and Sarah is going to do the T6.1, so we're going to cut between the two as we work our way through them. So T6 first then. Driving area, some obvious differences to start with, so different steering wheel design. Personally, I don't think it's any better or worse. You can make your own mind up. This particular T6 Ocean hasn't got adaptive cruise control, but the button would be on the dashboard there for it. This does have flappy paddles for changing gear, which was an option at the time, and you can't get that as an option on the T6.1 anymore, so that's a bit of a difference. In terms of the foot area, you'll notice in here there is a place for my left foot. Now that is different, and Sarah will show you that in the 6.1. That is different in the 6.1. It's a
bit of a shame that's disappeared in the 6.1. It does make for a comfy driving.
It does.
Position, doesn't it?
But I think the other major difference in here, obviously there's a different control panel, we'll talk about that a bit later. Some of this looks very familiar, so all of the controls and things for the heating, everything else down here looks quite similar. Radio in the new one's obviously a bit updated, dashboard feels a bit more angled towards you in the 6.1, but the major thing about the Oceans in particular in the T6, they have this lovely comfort dashboard. That's what it's called the comfort dashboard. So you get a pocket at the top here where you can store stuff in. It's always really handy. It's all nice felt lined and everything. That's always really handy. Got a top glove box here where you can put books, again felt lined and everything. Bottom lockable glove box here, excuse the paperwork, but again all felt lined and everything else. That's also got a, just grab the camera off Sarah for a second, that's also got this little bit here which is actually an air conditioning vent, so it keeps all of your drinks or anything else that you might have in there nice and cold, so that's all really handy. In the centre here you've got a little cubby here, there's a USB in there, you've got a cigarette lighter socket, all nice rubber lined and everything, nice gloss black and everything here. Pull out, couple of cup holders.
The again, shaky drawer.
Yeah, all rubber lined and everything here as well. This does that when you drive along, but it's still a good couple of cup holders, so quite like that. Under here, the secret, let's grab this again, massive bottle holder, again nicely rubber lipped there, folds away really neatly. I think the other thing to say in here as well is the quality of the door cards and the kind of how nice everything is, because this is actually fabric, kind of soft touch, nice fabric.
It's like sort of brushed metal up
yeah,
here,
got
isn't
some
it?
nice brushed metal. These are quite squidgy, they're not hard, so they've actually got some kind of soft touch on here. Inside all the doors you've got nice rubber linings, top and bottom. There's a rubber lining in there as well. This dashboard is all nice, feels good, really nice quality, and that is the T6 interior at the front.
Okay, so over to me with the 6.1. So steering wheel, pretty similar, very slightly different design, but doesn't really fuss me, to be honest, either one. You'll see up here now we've got a fully digitised dashboard, and it's just generally a bit more of a modern kind of car feel to the dashboard here. So things just a little bit more tilted towards the driver, looks a little bit more angular. We've now moved away from the two different types of dashboard. So this isn't the comfort dashboard, it's just the standard dashboard that you get across the range. So we've got these excellent cup holders up here which are really, really useful and are in a really quite perfect place. But we've lost that nice pull-up box that's covered that you can put some stuff in, and we've now got shelves. Now you'll see we've put some stuff on here to actually try and make it a little bit sticky and stop things flying around, but when you get it, you can just see here it's this sort of scratchy plastic, and this here again, scratchy plastic without any kind of real feel to it. Moving down into the sort of driver's footwell area, you can see we've lost that, excuse my shoes, they're a little bit dirty, sorry about that, but we've lost that nice side pedal or rest that you can put your foot on.
Do you know why?
Well, I presume it's something to do with AdBlue or something to do with economy.
There's another catalytic converter underneath to make this compliant with the Euro standards, which means that they had to nick a bit of footwell to fit it in underneath.
Yeah.
So that's why you haven't got it anymore.
Bit of a shame.
But if you put your foot near it, it's quite warm.
It's not too bad for me. I mean, I haven't pulled the seat forward to where I'd normally sit, but you know, being a bit shorter, I couldn't really necessarily make a huge amount of use of the footrest as it is, but for taller people like Will, not quite so great on long journeys. So over here then, further into sort of storage, you can see as well we've lost that pull-up flap cover of the sort of glove box area, and we've just got this open shelf, and again, scratchy plastic, no kind of rubber or felt. We've got another shelf here, and again, scratchy plastic. We have still got a proper glove box which can be locked, but let me just take the camera and show you. It's got Will's phone in there, but look how small that is compared. And again, no lining in it whatsoever, just scratchy plastic. So it's quite a substantial difference. And then moving over here again, we've lost another sort of nice pull open covered area. Again, you obviously tell I've got a thing about scratchy plastic, so keys and stuff roll around in there, creaking all over the place. And we also don't have that nice big pull out, drop down bottle holder there either. So it's quite a big change actually from the T6, and I can't say that I actually think, to be honest, it's a particularly positive one in most respects. You know, a camper, you end up using a lot of storage. Just pull this a little bit closer so I can actually reach it. So you can see here we've lost that nice brushed metal, and again we've gone to scratchy plastic. There's no real feel to it. Plastic again, plastic. We have still kept these little metal inlays on the windows there, and this is still metal, which feels quite nice. But again, scratchy plastic down here, no carpet. There are some rubber inlays here though, and down in the bottom drawer.
No.
Is that one not rubber? This one is here. That one's scratchy. Why have they put it as a rubber one in the top?
Rubber in the top, not in the bottom.
And not in the bottom. So it feels, I must admit, a little bit of a dumbing down actually, unfortunately. It's still, don't get me wrong, still a lovely place to be. Really nice feel to everything generally, but this sort of feels to me like a little bit of a step down from the quality that you got in the T6.
So I think there's a question for our viewers. Would you rather have
digital dash,
fancy digital dashboard and swooping dash, or would you rather have nicer materials on the door card with a bit of nice kind of soft touch everywhere and
lots of storage?
And lots of storage, covered storage as well, because if you've got an expensive pair of sunglasses, where are you going to put them in that dash? Apart from in the glove box. It's really tricky, really tricky. So what would you rather? Post in the comments below, let us know. Right, so one big difference between the T6 and the 6.1 is the camping control panel. So this is the camping control panel up here. If I just turned it on there, you'll see it's just a little tiny kind of dot matrix display. It gives you the battery information, you've got the water level, the waste level. It tells us that the roof's open. Obviously the time needs setting on this one. But it's very simple. So you've got a button which controls the heater. If I press it, you select a level up and down, press it again, or press the button and then heater comes on, nice and easy. Roof's open, thank you. If you press this one, that's the fridge box. So again, you turn it, press it, comes on. And that's basically it. It's really simple, doesn't really do a lot else. Sarah, when we get back to the T6.1, will show you the control panel in the 6.1 and you'll see how it's a little bit more advanced.
Okay, so the control panel, the camping control panel in the 6.1. You'll see I think it's actually quite a bit bigger. It takes a fair bit more space up here. You've still got this button idea, but you've lost all of the other easy kind of press buttons. It's changed over to being a kind of funky LCD colour display. Everything looks a little bit smarter. You can scroll side to side, so it's kind of got that almost iPhone, iOS kind of idea, rather than everything being done by the button or the scrolly wheel. I think I quite like it. Looks nice and modern. It's a little bit more complicated. So things like you'll have seen in previous videos, us talking about the auxiliary heater being a little bit of a strange one to master. It seems to have two different modes. So this kind of heat continuously or heat immediately, and a little bit odd, a bit strange to get your head around. And it's got something else that's about controlling fans and things, so you can just have ventilate modes and stuff. Very strange. I do like this level feature that helps you to make sure you've got your van nice and level. Don't have that on the T6. That's quite fun. Camping mode, so you can start faffing about with lights and bits in here. Quite helpful. And then the pop-up roof is done through here. Now it's a little bit more, I suppose, health and safety conscious, a little bit sort of trying to wrap you in cotton wool and make sure you don't make any mistakes. So whereas the T6, you go to put up the roof and it's just like press the button and off you go. So you can quite easily make some mistakes, like forgetting to leave doors open. You could be parked under a tree, for instance, and it doesn't remind you. This one does, but to be honest, I find it a little bit irritating. I've got it, I know my stuff, but it is what it is. Just one other thing whilst we're talking about control panels and things, because everything in here has turned into, well, the vast majority of things in here have turned into being touch. So you need your fingers. Gloves. If you're a cold person like I am, you can already see I've got a bit of a rainode starting there, and it's not exactly a freezing cold day today. You're not going to be able to operate any of this stuff whilst wearing some gloves unless you've got some really good ones with the proper fingertips and things like that, whereas everything in the T6 over there is a proper push button, sort of stab it from a distance. It's dead easy to operate. So swings and roundabouts, depends whether you've got a problem with raynodes or not.
Okay, so we're in the camping bit now of the T6. One thing to note, obviously there are a few spec differences between our T6.1 and this T6. So things like this upholstery in here, this was standard on the Ocean T6. Obviously cloth like this, fabric is standard on the T6.1. We've got art velours. You can have art velours on the T6 as well, that's just a spec option. And things like the floor here, this is the standard floor. We'll do a bit on the colour differences because the T6 is quite a light grey interior called Moonrock, whereas the 6.1 is called Palladium Grey. It's actually a bit darker, so we'll show you that kind of side by side a little bit later on. But this has obviously got the rubber floor in. Ours has got the wooden floor in. You could have a wooden floor on the T6, so again, just a spec difference, so not really comparing those. In terms of the way that this feels different in the back here, the T6, things like the cupboards here, you've got slightly different design. So this grey is more of a kind of line style design rather than a slate, which is in the 6.1. You can make your own minds up about what you prefer. Push button style to move them like that. But one thing I really like about the 6 rather than the 6.1 is if you've got one open like this, you can actually still press this and move both together. And you just can't do that on the 6.1.
It's a small thing, but it's a huge
small thing,
difference, isn't it?
but you can move them together. So have a look at that when Sarah shows you in the 6.1. In terms of the hob, obviously there's slightly more beveled design on the front here rather than a push button in, which is fine in terms of these, doesn't really affect anything particularly. The good thing about the 6.1 from a fridge perspective is
the 6.
Well, I was going to say the 6.1.
Oh, right, okay.
The nice thing about the 6.1 is that the fridge actually will stay open a little bit easier on the 6.1
Yeah,
to
that's
vent,
true.
rather than this, which likes to close itself. Which, you know, if you want it to
Swings
close,
and
that's
roundabouts,
good.
isn't it?
If you don't, that's that. These are both the same. So 6 and 6.1 have got these trays. The early 6s didn't have these. We had a 2018 T6 and it didn't have these, so these came in after that. And obviously this is a 2019 van. Blinds and everything just the same, so all very similar in the back here. The other thing which is quite different in the back is these doors. So these are what's called tambour doors. So the way that they work is they roll away, and you can see it rolls around the corner. So if I move it, you can probably see it's rolling away. These are absolutely notorious for breaking. They fall apart, the little strips come apart, they jam open.
It's the tape on the back of them that just it gets a bit hot.
So this tape here gets warm and then ends up melting, and they all fall apart. So very, very common to see these broken or being replaced. So if you do have a look at a second-hand T6 and you see one of these broken, don't worry, they're easy to replace. Easy to get hold of. Volkswagen sell hundreds of them.
And replace hundreds under
hundreds
warranty.
of them under warranty. It's very normal to see them do that. But as you'll see on the 6.1, quite a different design for those now. So things like the airline locker, again, very straightforward, very similar to the T6.1. The latch design on this is pretty tricky actually. And if you're lying underneath it, it's really hard to open. I mean, it's really hard, just like that. Again, have a look on the 6.1. They've redesigned that slightly and it's a little bit easier. Other things in the back here, things like the air conditioning control panel, it's just got a slightly different, that's the LCD display in there for it. You'll see it's just slightly different in the T6.1. Basically does exactly the same thing, no functional difference at all. And you've got double glazing in this window and the rear window, just the same. And I think everything else, obviously you can see that they've continued the nice kind of carpeting and everything else back here. I think everything else is pretty similar. Got the table in the same place. The lights in the back here aren't linked because in the 6.1 you turn one off, both go off. I don't know what these dim on. No, they don't dim either. So on the 6.1 these dim and they don't in here. And obviously you can't control any of these lights from the front on the control panel, which you can on the 6.1. I think as well you do get, so again on the early T6s you didn't get lighting in the cupboards and underneath here, but obviously the later ones you do. And this split worktop, so these being independent like this, came in, I think it was about 2018 actually.
I think it was early 2018.
Because we had it on
or
ours.
late 2017.
But the early
like that.
T6s had a single piece of glass, and that was the same for the T5s, the T5.1s as well. Window design is slightly different as well. So on these, in the T6 and before, you pull these out and slide along, whereas on the 6.1 you have to pinch together. I hate them on the 6.1. I think they're awful. I know a lot of people though who equally hate this design. So it's horses for courses really. I just think this is a lot more natural to grab hold of, open and slide.
Rather than a pinch.
That's the difference.
So here we are in the 6.1, so a little bit different, but not majorly different to the T6. So if I start, where shall I start? Let's go with the window, seeing as that's what we'll finished off with. So it's changed a bit here. So the other one was like a butterfly, whereas this is now a pinch and a pull. Bit different. I can't say I'm particularly fussed either way, but that's what you get. We've still got these split worktops here, so you've got the one over the sink, the hob and the fridge, but we've got a different style of button here to open it. So you can see it's a little bit more squared off. Press the button and this is where it's held in there, so like that. And Will was talking about the fridge, so see there that you can actually leave it just bounced open a little bit. And what we tend to do if we're leaving the Cali for any length of time and we've had the fridge on is leave this just with a tea towel sort of underneath it to stop it bouncing around, but it keeps it ventilated so you don't end up with a smelly fridge, which is quite useful. So you can see it's a bit of a darker kitchen and wardrobes and cupboard area. So this is known now as palladium, which is obviously that darker grey, and the openers here for the cupboards have changed quite substantially away from those little things with the round. We've now got these bigger bits here, which they're easier to open. I think you've got a much bigger area that you're going for, but like Will said earlier, it's really nice to actually, especially when you've got the table out here and you're sort of trying to pass things between the two of you, to be able to open both at the same time. And you
can do it one way.
You can kind of do it that way. But now you've got no way, because this one's gone back so far, of actually being able to do it back that way. So you must close this like that before you can then open that one. So it's a minor irritation. It's one of those kind of proper first world problems, isn't it? But when you've got used to being able to operate in one way and then you kind of have to change it, it's a little bit irritating. In terms of the layout of the cupboards, exactly the same as the T6. Apologies that you can hear a dog probably drinking in the background here. With a 6.1, it comes with an aged border collie. Completely free of charge. What else? So in here you can see that darker theme, I know we've got the art velours here, but that darker theme of the palladium is carried over. So you've got darker grey, and that would just be darker grey on the cloth.
I'll tell you what we'll do, we'll take off the load cover here, because it's dead easy to pop off. We'll take our load cover off a bit later and we'll put it next to the moon rock, so you can see how dark the moon rock, how dark the palladium actually is compared to
versus the moon rock. So I suppose one bonus of it being the darker is that the table now in the door matches the door card in terms of the dark grey, and you still actually, bizarrely, although that they've removed in the front all of the nice kind of carpet on the door cards and things, you still get it back here, which is quite nice. If you see it there beyond the cushions, and a nice little bit of brushed silver.
Front, really,
yeah, why couldn't they put that back in the front again?
Maybe
who knows? So back here, the air conditioning panel has just been upgraded, I suppose, a little bit to something that looks a little bit more digital. Still got all the push buttons on it. That hasn't gone to being a screen with sort of flicking through like an iOS kind of style device, just a little bit upgraded. But one of the most positive changes, I think, here is the wardrobe. We have lost those tambour doors. VW have obviously decided far too many.
Enough is enough.
Warranty claims. Enough is enough, yeah.
Too much.
So we've got a nice big thing there to open it, nice big one to open it there, and it just pushes back, which has the added bonus of when you've got this wardrobe stuffed full of clothes on it for you as you're going for a long trip, because the tambour door goes round that corner, it can get caught on things that you've actually put in the cupboard.
No more.
And you don't get that anymore, so you can actually use all of that cupboard space.
It goes a lot wider than that as well, actually.
It goes all the way back down, which is great. So you've got this huge hole that you can get into there, which is brilliant. And you've still got the little hanging rail there, which I can't say we've ever really used. But how much better is that? Nice positive clunk shut. Done. They've also changed the latch very slightly on this airline locker here, so it is a little easier to open. It doesn't look massively different, but it is. It's different enough. Makes it that bit easier to use. So some really good things, some not so great, but I think overall I'm pretty happy with it.
So for anyone who was wondering about the difference between moon rock, which is here, so that's the 6 colour, versus 6.1 palladium, that's your difference right there. So that's a little bit of trim out of ours. It's the load through cover off the bottom of the bench seat. Just popped it in there straight next to a bit of moon rock from the T6. So gives you a good idea about how much darker it is. And in real life it really is quite a lot darker, and to be honest, a lot more practical. So Sarah, being eagle-eyed, has spotted something else, which is actually really handy on the T6.1 and is a difference. So yeah. Go on then. We're in the T6.
We're in the T6 at the moment. On the back of the drivers and the passenger seats in the T6, you only get the one big pocket. So big kind of mat pocket, great, really useful. However, there's nothing else up here, so
what a waste.
Some might say it's a wasted space. And in the 6.1, I'll show you shortly, you get, is it 2 or 3 pockets up here? Something like that. Excellent for stuffing face masks in COVID times.
Dog poo bags.
Dog poo bags.
Car keys.
Car keys. The heater, key fob, something like that. So we do actually use them quite a bit. So here's the back of the driver's seat in the T6.1, and you can see it is 2 pockets. So one nice pocket here, another one there. So see, we've popped our little heater keyring on that. I don't think there's anything else in there at the moment actually, but yeah, quite handy. And you still get this sort of fair size mat pocket on the back. I think that might actually be a smidge smaller, but really useful. Quite like that.
We're upstairs now in the bed area. So this is the T6, you can see by the canvas. I'll talk about the canvas in a second, because I actually think the canvas is slightly thicker on the 6.1 than it is on the 6. But the most important difference that you need to know about on the 6 rather than the 6.1 is the older style under the mattress has these wooden slats, which is fine. They're actually quite comfortable, and they go all the way across, you see. So they're a single wooden strut all the way across, obviously designed to give you some comfort. See, this is the standard mattress that comes in, it's velcroed on, and it's quite different to the 6.1. You'll see in a second what the springs are like in the 6.1. This has been the design in the California from the T5 onwards, so tried and tested design, can be made comfortable. I'm not going to say that it's comfortable out the box, because this mattress is we certainly don't think it's very comfortable, but don't let those wooden slats put you off. In our opinion, the 6.1 is probably slightly more comfortable, but the 6 is not bad at all. At least it's got some springing in there. That's the main thing. Upstairs in the T6, you also get cigarette lighter socket, controls for the lights, which are just in the roof, just there. Again, they were actually an option on the T6 and standard on the T6 Ocean, and then round on the other side here is the other light control as well. Obviously you've got zippable windows in the sides. This T6 Ocean, all Oceans came with a zippable window at the front. However, this one also has the panoramic front zip, which takes the whole of the front window down as well. So that was an option on the later T6s, but not the early ones.
Here we are then back in the T6.1 looking at sleeping arrangements for upstairs, and you can see it's quite a bit different. We've now moved over to these things called Frolly springs, so individual little springs all the way back down on the mattress there. We've removed our mattress because, as you've probably seen from other videos, we use the Sea to Summit inflatable, so we sometimes leave it up here deflated, sometimes take it back down. But I do think this is a proper big benefit of the 6.1. It's so comfortable. The wooden slats are good, but this is really, really great. Really happy with this. One of the primary reasons we did a change over to the 6.1 actually. The bed measure's exactly the same. We've also got these same switches over here, if you can just see those, and cigarette lighter, so you can plug a phone in or anything like that. You've still got the lights up in the roof. Yeah, you can just about see those up there, I think. And then you get exactly the same over here on the other side. A little more tricky to compare canvases, because we've obviously got a bright red canvas, whereas the T6 is a grey one that they've got on there. However, we did go and take a look at a T6.1 standard before we bought this, and they've moved that over to being a much darker grey canvas as well. And actually the canvas is quite a bit thicker, to be honest. You can't really see any daylight through it at all. And you can also tell when you pop the roof down, it takes up a little bit more space as you're trying to sort of fold it away. But yeah, another difference there, a little bit thicker.
Right, so we're getting towards the end of this now at the back of the van. So if we have a look in here, we have got the normal California chairs. Just the same as the 6.1, so you've got the same chairs all in their nice, clever, zippable Space, you've got lights under here, all the same with the control on the side. There's a light there which is just the same. Double glazing at the back, as I've talked about, although this one actually is a very rare one because this doesn't have double glazing. This has got the heated bars instead. That was an option on the T6s. You could choose whether you wanted a heated rear windscreen or whether you wanted double glazing instead, because the double glazing doesn't have heated bars. And I don't think I've ever seen one which has got double glazing, which has got heated bars before. So
Peggy's the first.
That's Peggy the first. So as we talked about before, in the back of the T6, you've got tambour doors. So again, those roll away. You'll see in the 6.1 you actually get a bit more space to be able to get in and out of the cupboard rather than the ones with the tambour doors here. So that just closes up nicely just the same. This one doesn't have the shower because it has a little output there. You'll see that on ours. And the other big difference back here, I should have said that the downstairs bed, so the bench seat, is exactly the same on both. So apart from the colour, the bench seat is exactly the same. The headrests fold down in the same way, it slides in the same way, the same space, same width, everything exactly the same. The difference, and this has obviously got the bed extension in, the difference is what's underneath here. So this, just ignore the fly screens which they've placed on there, this you can open by clicking these and it comes up like that, but there's nothing to hold it. So you can take it out if you want to create a nice big load area, but as you'll see on the 6.1, it's one of the big differences in terms of the kind of living space, the fact that you can actually...
Well, there's that, and the fact that it's no longer a kind of wire mesh either.
That's right, it's a hard board. So you'll see quite a significant difference on the 6.1 there, and that's what creates that nice internal kind of chaise style lounger, which without doing a lot of modification on this, with extra stuff bolted in, you're not going to be able to do on the 6. So it's one of the other big differences back here in the boot area.
Welcome to the T6.1. So we are exactly the same up here for the storage of the chairs. So nice and handily popped away there, and you can see we store a couple of other little bits in there too. Make all the use of the space. And then things here are just a little bit different. So again, we've lost the tambour door, so you end up with the... look at that, goes back all the way.
That actually opens so wide you can get into the wardrobe.
You can, look, how great is that? No clunky tambour door, just some nice big doors, nice easy access, and a good positive close. Excellent. We went for the shower option, so you can see where that goes in here, and then this is just a ludicrously expensive pocket to be able to store the shower in rather than it being hidden away. That's a brand drop one, by the way, so we can pop the link in the description. So we've managed to get ourselves the bed extension mat here separately, which you can actually tell it's a different material. Rather than the typical foam that you get that's part of the upholstery, which is that, it does actually feel a little bit softer, and it's obviously a slightly more breathable material, I think, as well. Now, this is where things do get a little bit different. So under here, again, ignore our fly screens, that's where we keep them. It's a hard board. And you get this handle here, which means that you can reach over once you put the bed down and lift it up from behind, and then you can pull this up, and it actually does stay like that. So when you get to site, you've got things in the boot that you're trying to get out right from the back. You don't have to empty everything out and sort of lean in. You can just grab whatever it is that you're actually wanting from the back there.
I'd actually go as far to say that the fact that you can lift this up and click it out the way to be able to get stuff in and out the boot, I actually think that is more valuable for having that than having the seating thing inside. Because actually, there's lots of people who buy pull-out trays and all sorts
to try. Which are great, actually.
They're fantastic, really well designed. But actually, with this, you don't actually need to use that very much, because you can just lift the top up and it works really well.
I really thought that it would be one of the things that we'd treat ourselves to when we changed our van, would be the nice sliding out drawer. And it's actually the thing that we really don't need anymore, to be honest. It's made such a massive difference just having this. And if we ever decide that we want to put the dog back in the boot, she didn't get on well at all with the being able to feel that sort of cage underneath it because it wasn't something solid, whereas here you've got this nice solid board as well, which is a huge difference. So thumbs up on that for the 6.1.
So just talking a little bit about the difference externally, you can see at the front here on the T6 there's probably, some would say, a slightly smaller grille and kind of almost a smooth front face to it. You can see this particular Ocean didn't have the LED headlight upgrade. This has got the normal halogens at the front here. It does have the crash sensor, so that's the radar which does the crash sensor, but they didn't spec this one with the adaptive cruise, which you do get as standard on the Ocean now. Obviously this is in a two-tone. You can still get two tones for the latest T6.1 as well. Arguably some of the colours aren't quite as good. I think, you know, things like the white and red and those kind of things, they haven't taken over to the 6.1, but obviously they did have them on the T6. Things like the fillers, so the water and the electric hookup and everything, all exactly the same. The roof itself, exactly the same in terms of aluminium shell. Powered roof on the Ocean, just the same, hydraulic roof. Side rails, just the same. Rear, obviously the tail light design is slightly different on the 6.1, but essentially it's effectively the same style around the back as well. The awning, again, just exactly the same. So there's a fuel awning, Omni-Store awning on here, just the same included. On the 6.1, had to be specified on the T6. Obviously the Ocean badging just the same as well, but very similar. One final difference which is just worthy of note is the 6.1 can have quite a few more driver aids. So things like the wing mirrors on the Ocean have got blind spot monitoring, so it's got a little orange light which comes on in the side. I'll show you that on the T6 and 6.1 in a second. That means the wing mirrors are slightly different as well. Obviously different wheel designs. These were an option wheel on the 6.1 on the 6, and obviously on the 6.1 there's a whole different range of wheel designs as well. Not very many taken over between the two models. So in terms of the 6.1 outside, obviously LED headlights are standard now on the Ocean, and the chrome that you see on the front here is absolutely as per standard spec. The sensor for the radar and everything you'll see there is a little bit more integrated into the design now rather than carved out as it was on the 6 that you saw before. This hasn't got the chrome pack, so this is how it comes. These wheels, Woodstock wheels, are a no-cost option on the Ocean as well. So there's 3 different wheel designs you can have included in the cost of the Ocean. At the time of making this video, we just decided to pick this one. You'll see very standard in terms of outside, very similar. You get the tinted glass at the back as standard now on the Ocean, whereas you didn't before. Awning standard, you didn't before. These wind deflectors are aftermarket, and the wing mirrors, as I was talking about, there's a little tiny light which comes on just inside there, which is the blind spot monitoring. At the back of the van on the side, on the 6.1, you'll see there's an extra sensor, looks like a parking sensor. That sensor is actually for the blind spot monitoring, so when a car is approaching, that's how it knows. Not a lot else has changed really on the back. You'll see there's a slightly different design for the rear tail lights. Those tail lights are LED, they're all LED, so indicators, reversing lights, the lot, whereas there were still some halogen bulbs in the older T6. So here you are, this is a T6 Ocean next to a T6.1. Let us know in the comments below which one you prefer. So have you got a preference? Do you like the kind of slightly lower looking, mean looking T6, or do you like the slightly more sleek, raked back look of the 6.1? Very subjective, no good, no bad. Volkswagen would tell you it's an evolution. I think it's just whichever one that you particularly prefer. No good or bad options.
So, what do you think of Peggy versus Whipsy. T6, T6.1. Hopefully what we've run through there is really helpful to you, to help you understand the differences, and we've really enjoyed doing it as well. And thanks to the guys here at Listers at Coventry for letting us have a van to have a look around, which is great. If this is the kind of content you really like, then please do hit that like button below. It helps us to know that we're doing the right kind of things that you enjoy watching. And it also helps us if you hit the subscribe button too. So we hope to see you again soon for some more California time.